Hi, this is Tamara at mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to be demonstrating how to make this beautiful stitch pattern for the Mermaid towel. The Mermaid towel is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Please go to the link in the description where you will find a link to both the right and left-handed video tutorials, the yarn, the hook, and everything else you need to make this pattern, including the written instructions. For this pattern, we'll be using 2 skeins of Red Heart Scrubby Smoothie. I made this one with white and aqua, and we'll also be using a USI 5.5mm hook. This one is by Brittany. Let's begin. Alright, so to demonstrate how to make the mermaid towel, I'm going to be using some darker colors, not the ones you've seen in the original towel. I think it'll just make it a little bit easier to see the stitches. So, want to clear up any of that confusion right away. Also, the towel begins with 24 rows of half double crochet. The first row is foundation half double crochet. After that, just standard half double crochet. So I'm not going to demonstrate all that for you today, but I did link out to some tutorials for that. Follow the link in the description and you'll find a tutorial for foundation half double crochet, and I'll throw a half double crochet tutorial in there too, just in case you're not familiar with the stitch. So after you've made just 24 even rows, when you come to that last stitch of the row, that's when it's time to pull up your next color. So I'm going to use this pretty lime green here as soon as I can find the end. I tried to pull it up ahead, and of course then I lost my end. There we are. So I'm going to just yarn over and pull through to finish the stitch here with that new color, and that'll give us a really nice color change. And then I can leave my blue hanging here, my color A, and pick it up again when I need it without having to cut the yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 3. Now this chain 3 here counts as our first double crochet. So if you prefer to use the chainless starting double crochet, you can absolutely do that. If you'd like to learn about the chainless starting crochet, again, I'll have that linked out with the tutorial. So that counts as our first double crochet. So that's our first stitch, kind of as if it's worked in right in that first stitch there. Then we're going to begin our repeat. We chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and work a single crochet right between the post of that previous stitch that we just skipped and the next stitch. So rather than going under the top 2 loops there like we normally would, we're going to come down here and just go right between the posts. Then we chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3, skip 2 more stitches, 1, 2, and work a double crochet in the next stitch. So I'll need to yarn over and go right into that next stitch. There we are, like so. And that is our first repeat. So let's do that again. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Keep dropping my yarn because I'm kind of working at arm's length here to get it up in front of the camera. Then we're going to skip 2, single crochet between the previous post and the next post. There we are. Chain 3 again. 1, 2, 3. Skip 2 and double crochet in the next. Let's do that one more time, and then we'll stop and look at how that looks on the actual row there. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 2 stitches, single crochet between the posts, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 2 stitches, and double crochet in the next one. Now, if we stop and look at our stitches here, you'll see that when I single crochet between the posts there, it doesn't really look like I'm skipping 2 stitches there like I am here, but I am. If you look closely, you can see it's worked in between the posts there. So if I pull it aside, there's not a stitch actually worked into the top of that stitch there. We'll be coming back and actually working into that later. So it's good that that one's free. So if you're just glancing at it, it can look like you've skipped 1, then 2, but really you have skipped 2 in both locations. So we're just going to continue making our repeats on across until we get to the end of the row. And when we get to the end of the row, we should end with a double crochet worked right into that last stitch. So that's another way to make sure that you've got your repeats just right. Otherwise, it's very easy to accidentally put that single crochet in the wrong spot. Working between half double crochets can be just a little confusing because it is a shorter stitch. But it will all work out when we come back with our color A there. So we're almost all the way across. When you reach the end of row 25, you should have 8 double crochets and 7 single crochets. And that's assuming you started with the recommended 36 stitches across. So we are almost there. We should have just one more repeat, so let's make it together. Chain 3. There we are. Single crochet, skip 2, single crochet between the posts. Chain 3, 2, 3. And then we should have, yep, a double crochet right in that very last stitch. So we know that worked out pretty well, and that will get us set up to start making our scales. Next is round 26. We're going to continue with our color B here with a chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1, whichever you prefer. Then we're going to single crochet in that first stitch. Then we chain 8. Now, you probably have noticed before when I make my chains, especially when it's a long chain like this of 8, I tend to choke up on my chains with my non-hook hand. I find this just makes the chains a little bit more even and more the same size and shape. So just a little hint there, sort of stabilizes the stitches. You can try that if you find your chains get a little wobbly. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chains made. So then I am ready to continue. So I'm going to skip over that single crochet, hop all the way over to this next double crochet, and single crochet in there. Then we're going to chain 8 again. Whoops. Working arm's length really does get tricky. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hop over that single crochet and single crochet in the next double crochet. Pull up a little bit more yarn, and they're just going to continue doing that across. So we're going to have these big floppy chain 8 loops, but those will get tacked down quite a bit later. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Skip the next single crochet in the next double crochet. And it looks like you would have 8 single crochets at the end of this row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I guess you could say 8 is the magic number for row 26 here. We're almost there, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up with the camera on here. I have to pull up a little bit more yarn. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So tell me, what colors would you guys make this mermaid towel in? I originally used white and aqua. I thought those were kind of mermaidy colors. But of course, you could do any color combo you wanted. You could even use dark colors like this and call them dragon scales. If you had kids who preferred dragons or a dragon-themed bathroom, I think that would be really fun too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hop over. It looks like we've got just one more of these arches to do here. Our long chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we just come right over here. Now I wanted to point this one out because remember we started with a chain 3 and then a chain 3 again to begin our repeat. So we're going to have to kind of flip that chain around here and find that third chain we made. 1, 2, 3. That one counts as the top of our double crochet. So always a little bit fiddly. That's why I like to use the chainless starting double crochets when I can. But for this pattern, it really is optional. So I wanted to show it without because you're going to come back and work in edging anyway. So most of this will get covered up. Now, there we are. Finally got my single crochet in there. However, before I finished that single crochet, I should have switched to the other color. Just want to get it finished there to kind of show you how that looks. So when you get to the end of row 26, you'll probably end up making a single crochet like I did. Then you can pull it back out. I've got my 2 loops on the hook there. Before I finish that stitch, then I want to go ahead and pull up that first color again and finish it with color A. There we are, because we're back at that edge. And you can see I've just got it running right along the edge there. Pull aside the other stitches. You can see it's not super loose. It's a little loose right now. I could probably tighten it up a little bit. But if I tighten it up too much, you can see there how it puckers the fabric on the side. I don't want that to happen. I want to just pull so that the stitches are all at their natural height. And then that side one there, that will get covered up with our edging. So let's continue with row 27. We're going to start with a chain 1. And of course, I need to turn back to come the other direction here. And then for row 27, we begin with a single crochet in the first stitch again. So right back into that last one we just made. And again, I'm just going to let color B hang out on the side here so I can pick it up again when I'm ready for it. Then I'm going to work in front of the color B rows, okay? So that means the previous 2 rows, both in color, well, they're color green here, but color B, whatever it is, I'm just going to go ahead and push those to the back and ignore them and work right in front of them into this row here until I get over here. So let me demonstrate that. I'm going to start by making a treble crochet. So I yarn over twice. Then I'm going to go into this stitch right here. Not this stitch. This is the first stitch. It's got stitches worked into it officially. So this one right here, I'm going to go in with my treble crochet. And I'm just going to, so you can see, push all those green rows right there to the back. So on the original towel, those would have been the aqua ones I'm pushing back, and I'm working in white. So there is a treble crochet. And then I'm going to make linked treble crochets in the next 3 blue stitches down here. So I do have a separate tutorial for this as well, but I'm going to demonstrate it now too. To make a linked treble, I'm going to find the 2 horizontal bars on my previous treble right there. You can see one there and one there. I'm going to go behind that top horizontal bar, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then I'm going to go behind the second horizontal bar right there, yarn over and pull up a loop. And then I'm going to go to my next stitch. Now, this is the stitch that it looks like that green stitch is worked into, but we know it's not. We just want to go under those top 2 loops, like so, and pull up a loop there. And then we've got 4 loops on the hook, so we're ready to finish our linked treble like we would a normal treble. We yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. So that's our first linked treble there. Now, the reason we're using linked trebles rather than standard trebles is because you can see by linking them, we create a really solid fabric. Even though it's a tall stitch, we don't get that big gap in between like we do between other stitches. So we're going to do that twice more here. I'm going to go under this first bar, the one we just made when we pulled through that bar on the original. We made another bar there. So we're going to go under that one with our hook, pull up a loop, come down to the second one we made there. Little fiddly, but it helps if you have a slightly pointy hook for these. Pull up a loop, and then I'm going to come over to the other side here. We're just going to ignore that worked right there, come over to the next half double crochet stitch there, pull up a loop, and then we're ready to finish it again. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Now we've got one more linked treble to make here for our little set of 4 treble stitches. So I'm going to go find those bars again. Here's the first one. There's the second one. And then finally, I'm going to go into this stitch right here, this last one before our double crochet. I'm going to make my treble right there. So we've got a nice little block of stitches there. After that, we're going to pull these green ones back up here and just make a single crochet right in the top of that single crochet right there. And that will help anchor it down. So you can see from the front of the cloth here how that sort of fills in some of that space, and then we'll come back on our next row. Well, not the next row, but the row after that, and tack that down. So for now, this is just hanging out back there. Just make sure it stays loose and they don't actually accidentally catch any stitches. Now we're going to continue making these series of 4 trebles behind and anchoring down in these stitches. So let's do it together again. I'm going to yarn over twice to begin my first treble. I'm going to just go right over here to this next unworked stitch right here. Pull up some more yarn first. I'm going to need them with these trebles. There we are. So I yarn over, pull up a loop, and just finish a treble like usual. And again, I'll have a separate treble tutorial linked out if you're not familiar with those. Then I'm going to find those 2 horizontal bars, go under the top one, and pull up a loop. Find the second one, go under there and pull up a loop, go to the next stitch. Just kind of push that color B out of the way as needed. and pull up my loop, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Then I can go right back into that stitch, that first bar, pull up a loop, go to the second bar, pull up a loop, come over here to the other side of that color B, go into the next stitch, and then finish my treble. And then we've got one more for this set. So I go under that first bar, then under my second bar, then into the next stitch, and finish the treble. So you can see, once you get used to these linked trebles, they really don't take much longer than standard trebles and give you this really great firm fabric. After you've got those 3 linked trebles made, then of course we want to pull up our greens and anchor down in the next stitch there with a single crochet. So we're just going to continue doing that all the way across until we finish up with a single crochet right in the top of that single crochet right there at the end. So I will see you when we get to the end of, this would be, where are we at? Row 27. So I'll see you at the end of row 27. Okay, and here I have finished row 27. You can see I ended up with a single crochet in the top of that last single crochet there. And you can see what that looks like from behind. You can just see the peeking through of the green there, but from the front, all those loops are still nice and loose. So let me turn that back around just a second here. We're going to begin row 28 together, and row 28 is just as easy as could be. We're going to start with a chain 3 again. That starts as our first double crochet, or whatever double crochet substitute you prefer. Then we're going to turn back to come back the other way here, and then we're simply going to double crochet in each stitch across, but we're only going to work into the previous row stitches. So we're going to pull that green loop and all those green stitches to the front there, and this time we're just going to be working into the blue. So not that first stitch, because that's our first double crochet. We come over to the next one here, and we're just going to simply double crochet in each stitch across, making sure the other color, the color B rows, are just held right in front out of the way. So since that's pretty simple, I will see you at the end of row 28. Okay, so here I am at the end of row 28. You can see it's just a simple row of double crochets worked all the way across with all that green stuff kind of held in front out of the way. So I've come to my last stitch, and here I am back at the side with my green, and I know it's time to pick that up. So I've started my double crochet, and just a little tip here that I wanted to throw in: when you're working yarns up along the side like this, if you've got a taller stitch, it's a great time to just sort of tuck it in there as you start that stitch to bring it up a little higher, like so. And then this is hanging out ready for me, so I can finish my stitch with my color B. There we go. All right, so now I'm ready to begin row 29. Okay, so let's begin row 29 together. We're going to start again with a chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. That will count as our first double crochet. So I'm going to turn and come back the other way, and then we can begin our repeat. So our let me try that again. Our repeat begins with a chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and single crochet between the posts, just as we did before. Of course, we're going into double crochets now, so it's a little bit easier to go right between the posts. But before we yarn over to continue our single crochet, I want to make sure that the chain 8 loop directly below is on top of my hook. So I'll just slip that on my hook, then I can pick my yarn back up and yarn over and pull up a loop to finish my single crochet. And when we do that, that tacks down that chain 8 loop here. So we're going to do that each time. So I'm going to chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3, and finish this repeat by skipping 2 stitches and double crocheting in the next. We don't have to enclose anything on this one. It's just a double crochet like that. So you can see that lines up with that double crochet below that peeks through. So let's make the repeat all together again. We're going to start with a chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Skip the next 2 stitches, go between the posts. Make sure you get that chain 8 loop on top of your hook before you finish your single crochet. Then we chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3. Skip 2 stitches and double crochet in the next. And we continue that on across until we finish again, of course, with a double crochet in the top of what would be our chain 3 right there. The big thing and the hardest thing to remember is just to make sure to grab those chain 8 loops. Turn it around this way so you can see on the front every time. So that is the big thing to concentrate on row 29 with. So I'm going to, otherwise, like I said, it's pretty much, I think I said, otherwise it's a lot like that first row we made. The big difference is grabbing those chain 8 loops. So I will see you at the end of row 29. Okay, so here I've finished row 29. I just pulled my hook out and made that loop a little bigger here so I can move my hands around. But you can see this is what it's going to look like from the back. And then if we flip it over here, I always like to check at this point and just make sure I got each one of those chain 8 loops tacked down, because now's the time, if you're going to have to pull it back out and go back and get those, now's the time you want to do that. So you can see I've got my chain 8 loops tacked down, and I am at this point right here ready to begin row 30. Now row 30, as it turns out, is just going to be those chain 8 loops again. That's what we need to come back with. You can see we've sort of mimicked this right here. So now it's time for the big chain 8 loops that will be worked in front. Then we've got another 2 rows of color A, just as we did before. We've got a row of our trebles and linked trebles worked behind. And then we've got a row of just double crochets worked right behind everything right there, that row of double crochets. So I'm not going to demo those again because you've seen me do those before. Then that's row 30, 31, and 32. So if you look at it this way, row 30 would be the chain 8 loops. Row 31 is going to be the trebles. Row 32, we come back across with double crochets, and then it's time for row 33. We don't actually do a repeat of row 29. So I'm going to go ahead and pull 29 out and work row 33 together with you here in just a second. Okay, so this is essentially where we'd be if when we finished row 32, except we'd have some more green down here. But we want to finish up again with color B, because that's what we're going to use for the rest of this end until we're ready to make our other end. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down for a second. And at this point, it's a great chance to break color A, your main color, since the rest of this end will be made in our accent color. So I'm just going to go ahead and set aside our dark blue here so it doesn't get tangled in at all, because I've got lots of yarn pulled up here. So we're going to continue with row 33, and I'm going to chain 1, and this is going to be really similar to what we just did for row 29 with just a couple small differences. We're going to single crochet in that first stitch. Then I am going to chain 2, 1, 2. I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2. And I'm going to single crochet between the posts, enclosing that chain 8 loop, which would be from row 30. Well, it would have been from row 30. So single crochet there and tie that down. So you can see it's similar to what we did for row 29, but we're keeping it real low and tight. We're going to chain 2 again, skip 2, and single crochet in the next. So this is just a lower, tighter version of that previous row. Chain 2 again, skip 2 stitches, go between the posts. Don't forget that chain 8 loop. Chain 2 again, skip 2, single crochet in the next. So I just did a few rows, obviously, as you've seen, of this for the mermaid towel. But if you were working this pattern a little differently, taking this stitch pattern off on your own, you just wanted more scales, you could absolutely do more repeats before you switch over here to the row 33 version. So skip 2, single crochet in the next. And those regular single crochets in the stitches, again, should line up with those double crochets below. Of course, we'll have another one below that in the original there. Chain 2, skip 2, go between the posts here. Don't forget your chain 8 loop. And we'll just work this one on across together because it's a pretty quick row, just chains and single crochets. When you get to the end of row 33, you should have 15 single crochets total. Unless, again, you've mixed up the stitch pattern a little bit, or on purpose, hopefully, and made it wider or narrower. Then, of course, your stitch counts will be slightly different. So we're almost there. I'm just sort of yammering my way across this row here. It looks like we've got one more loop after this one. So almost finished. Remember, just to chain 2 between these. We want to keep it nice and even there before we work our final edging. There's my last chain 8 loop, I hope. So I'll secure that one down, chain 2, and then I'm going to single crochet right in the top of that chain 3, since I know that was my first double crochet of the previous row. There we are. And then let's take a look. Let's turn it around and make sure I got all my chain 8 loops. Yay, I did. Good. So those are all tacked down. So essentially this is what row 33 will look like from the back, the side we just made it. Here we are. So then we are ready to begin row 34. I'm going to start again with a chain 1, turn to come back this way. Then I'm going to single crochet in the first stitch. And then I'm going to make a half double crochet and double crochet in this first chain 2 space. So I yarn over, go into that chain 2 space for a half double crochet, then a double crochet. Then I'm going to work 2 treble crochets right in that next single crochet. So I yarn over twice, pull up a loop, and just, and try that again. Yarn over twice, pull up my loop, and yarn over and pull through 2 3 times. These are just standard treble crochets. You don't have to worry about linking these. Although I suppose if you wanted to, you could. I think linked stitches are a lot of fun, especially when you want a really solid fabric without putting a lot of time into it, because they're a little bit quicker than single crochets. So after we've made our 2 treble crochets in the stitch, then we're going to work a double crochet, half double crochet in the next chain 2 space here. So I'm sure you can see how this creates then. Start creating those scallops that you see at the end, sort of reminiscent of our little mermaid tail ends there. So after we've worked a double crochet and half double crochet in that chain 2 space, then we single crochet in the next. And that is our basic repeat for this one. So our repeat for row 33, row 34. We start with a half double crochet and double crochet in the next chain space. Then we work 2 treble crochets in the next single crochet. So this is the single crochet that's tacking down the top of that chain 8, just to give you a little reference point. Make sure you're doing this in the right spot. Okay, and then with a bit more yarn pulled up here, I can continue with a double crochet, half double crochet in the next chain 2 space. There we go. And finish that up with a single crochet in the next one. And we've got another nice scallop made. So we're going to continue that all the way across, and then of course we'll end up with a single crochet right in the end there. So I'm going to continue making my scallops. Let's make one more together. Next chain 2 space, we'll half double crochet, then double crochet right in that chain 2 space. You don't have to worry about trying to go into the individual chains. No need for that. Then we're going to make 2 trebles right in that next stitch. Yarn over twice for trebles. There we are. Then double crochet, half double crochet in the next chain 2 space, working our way sort of back down in height. There we are. And single crochet in the next stitch. So that is our basic repeat for row 37. And at the end, you should have 7 total, or excuse me, not row 37. Why did I say that? I got myself mixed up. Row 34, because you should have 7 scallops at the end of this row. So I will see you when we have 7 of these little guys made. Okay, so here I am at the end of row 34. It's almost a little too wide for the screen here, but you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 scallops. And with a little bit more here, if I'd made that second repeat, let me pull up the original here, you can see that would give us that end right there. Now, at this point in the pattern, you should cut this color as well, and then you're going to flip this towel around to the edge where you just began with your half double crochets, and then you're going to add 1 more row of half double crochet in the main color, and then turn and begin just like we did before to make our first decorative end. And then when you get to the end of the scallops on the second end, that's where we begin the border. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate on our little swatch here now. Okay, so to make the edging for the mermaid towel, assuming you've made your second end and you're ready to do so, you just want to single crochet, just turn and single crochet right along the side here. I like to give it a little chain 1, but that's totally up to you. Some people don't like to chain before they begin their edging. Some people do. It's whatever you prefer. And when I'm crocheting my edging, I like to work whatever color I'm crocheting into. I like to use that color for this first round of edging. I think it just gives it a really cleaner look. So if you've still got your blue attached because you've made your second edging here, you can just go ahead and pull that up. It should be waiting for you right here if you've cut it. Your color A, I should say, not necessarily blue, but your color A. I like to finish that stitch right there with this one before I go into the color blue, just to continue that really clean color change look. One thing I do want to point out is, because I know I'm going to pull up my green again for right here, so I'm just going to crochet over my working yarn as I make this little blue section so that my green will be ready and waiting for me when I get there. And then I'll do the same thing when I crochet with the green so that my blue will be ready and waiting for me, or color A, or whatever color you're using. So you can see, okay, I can get probably one more blue stitch in here. So I'll make sure to finish that one with my green. There's my working yarn. Pull that through before I go into the green. I just want to make sure that I get my working blue in there so that I carry it along for when it's needed. And the other thing I want to point out is that I am enclosing not just my working yarn, but that yarn that we floated along the edge there, just to hide that color change there. So it looks like I could fit maybe one more green one here. So I'll finish this one with the blue. And then if I was done with my repeats here until I get to the other end of the towel, I would go ahead and cut the green rather than carry it all the way along this edging here. I would just want to work with the blue here. So then I would crochet all the way around until I got to one of these edges, and these edges are handled just a little bit differently. So give me a second and I'll pull my yarn all the way around here to this edge so I can show you how to work your final edging when you get to these scallops. Okay, so for the purposes of time, I've sort of faked it here and I've pretended to come up this side. I've got a couple stitches worked into the edge, this side of the towel here. And then I'm going to chain 2 because I'm at a corner and I want to chain 2 in each corner just to create a really nice edging. And then I'm ready to start working along a scalloped edge. So when you work into a scallop edge, we're just going to single crochet in each of the stitches. So pretty straightforward and easy until we get to those trebles. And those are going to be handled just a little bit differently. Well, not that differently. You'll see here in a sec. I'm at my 2 trebles. Remember, we worked those into our single crochet. Go ahead and single crochet in the first one. And then before you single crochet in the next one, let me pull that up a little bit there. We're just going to work 1 single crochet right between the posts, just to split those apart a little bit and make our little tail scallops a little more taily. Then we can continue single crocheting in each stitch right along until we come to another pair of trebles that will work a single crochet in between. So pretty simple. You can see it gives it just that little bit of separation there, adds a little bit to the mermaid illusion. So we'll just do that every time we come to a pair of treble crochets. We'll just work 1 single crochet right between them, but otherwise we're just going to single crochet right in each of the stitches on the ends here, and then of course single crochet evenly along the sides. So you can see I just went right between the trebles there. Oh, my yarn's starting to get a little close. There we go. So let's take another look at our finished mermaid towel together. Okay, and here's our finished mermaid towel again. Well, the whole thing. There we are. There's both ends. So you can see we've got our scale pattern that we made together. And though while I abbreviated it on our swatch, so we only did 1 of these repeats, you actually make 2 before you make that really short and tight row like we did right here. Then we've got our scalloped edge, that final row of single crochet. You can see there's just 2 little chains right there, and then you would just join right up to that first single crochet you made along the edge. And you can see here too how I changed color along the edging like I was talking about, and I think that just gives it that little bit cleaner look there. It's a little clearer, you can see right there. And I wanted to show you too how this pattern looks from behind so you get an idea, because the back side is definitely the wrong side with this one. You can see I caught all the yarns that we carried along the edge. I guess this was actually the edge with the yarns carried along there. So those are caught inside those stitches. And then we've just got that little peak of color from behind on both sides there. And that's the one thing, when you add your second decorative edge, make sure you add a row of half double crochet in your original color from the right side. So that's from this side. So let's say I was making the towel this way and this was my first edge. Then I came back here to add my second edge. I want to make sure to add my half double crochet row from this side so that I can turn this way. And remember, we begin those rows of the color B actually on the right side, so, or on the wrong side. So that first row is from this side, like so. So again, go to the link in the description and you'll find instructions, written instructions for this pattern, as well as the left or right. If you happen to end up on the wrong one and you need the other one, you'll find links for those there too, as well as the yarn, this beautiful hook, and all the other tutorials I've mentioned today and all the other information you need to make the beautiful mermaid towel. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a like and a thumbs up. Let us know what you think in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe to the Moogly Blog YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching.